Hello and welcome to Thoughtfully Fit Thursdays. I am here today with a guest who I found because parenting is hard. And I was doing some Googling and I ran across Debbie Godfrey and positive parenting and I was mesmerized. So Debbie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, I am too. I'm really excited because what you are a master and an expert at is something that I am not. And I find most of us are not because there are not classes on positive parenting. So I wonder if just right off the bat, you can share what is positive parenting?
Well, yeah, to me, positive parenting, it's a verb, right? That it's an active something action that we take. And for me, it's disciplining our kids in a way that doesn't break their spirit. That's the bottom line. So how can I discipline my kids? How can I get them to do what they're supposed to do and be the proper people they're supposed to be without damaging their self-esteem, without diluting their self-concept, without hurting hurting their feelings is kind of a bad one, but without diminishing their sense of self. And so many of the old forms of discipline, like yelling, grounding, spanking, they're punishment. To me, punishment is just the word. It's to make somebody pay for something they've done wrong, like a crime. And I always say children are not criminals. They don't need to pay for what they've done. Their behavior is communication. And they're communicating, if they're misbehaving, they're communicating, they're discouraged about something. And I, as a parent, can help my child find a way to become more encouraged to do more appropriate behavior and get their needs met that way rather than through misbehavior.
Which is so brilliant. I love how you say it without, sort of how to help guide them to be good humans without breaking their spirit or their self-confidence.
Right. Right. And that's the essence of it to me.
Yeah. So yay, that's fantastic. And so now I'm curious, how did you get into this? What's your story?
Well, the short version, because I know we have a short version day today, I was in a battered women's shelter with my 3 kids. So I had a 4-year, let's say 4, 2, and 1-year-old. No, 6, 2, and 1-year-old, and found myself in a battered women's shelter. And in the shelter, they said, you can't spank your kids. And I was like, what? How am I going to discipline them? And it wasn't obvious to me at the time, but there's a connection between now spanking technically isn't violence, but the act is a little bit violent. And so you're not allowed to hit your kids. And I was like, well, what am I going to do to discipline? And I didn't know what to do. And so there was one of the great little counselors in the shelter, and she's like, well, every time you think you need to spank one of your kids, come and let me know, and I'll help you through it. And so the first day I called her like 10 times, Abby, he's doing this and this, I know I need to spank him now. And we'd talk about it. And after a week or two, I realized no matter what they do, I can find a different way to communicate, to redirect them, to have a better influence. And that's where I had my first parenting class, was in the shelter. And so when I got out of there, I took other parenting classes. I love them. I started a parenting breakfast club at home with my neighbors. And that was like the beginnings of it. And then at one point I took a curriculum that I really loved. And that's what I got trained in and started my business, Positive Parenting, in July of 1994.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've been doing this for a long time.
And Debbie, that is inspiring when I'm hearing you, where you've come from being in a shelter with 3 kids under 6 to where you are now. Wow. And talk about a silver lining. I mean, crisis happens and how you deal with it determines what happens next. It sounds like you really were able to, and you had the support, you had the resources there in the shelter to be able to rewire your brain and maybe your patterns to parent in a different way.
Yeah, and that's why I loved your book so much. I was reading it, just looking at all those processes and noticing how many of them came into play for me without even knowing how many were so important and part of that process. And it was just, I love your book. I mean, I think you did such a great job encapsulating a process so easy to understand and learn and follow. And yeah, it was a very fun read. Loved it.
Well, thank you. I mean, thank you. That means a lot, and it's probably one of the reasons why I was excited to reach out to you to have you, is because it feels like there are a lot of parallels
Yeah.
with, and with positive parenting and being thoughtfully fit.
Yes, for
So,
sure.
and thank you for sharing your story. I'm going to now sort of take that focus from you and broaden it out, and I'm curious, like, what are the struggles that you see that parents face? How do you, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, but essentially, parents are so busy trying to get their kids to behave right, to struggle through each day, getting everything done, that they don't stop. That's and another thing, I like your little process with the pause. Like, oh yes, every parent needs to learn this little pause, think, act. I mean, this is perfect. And like I think that's where taking the positive parenting class, it gives parents more consciousness about their parenting so that they are stopping, and instead of just knee jerk reacting to situations, yelling at their kids or whatever, it's like, let me take a deep breath. Let me think about why, my child's discouraged right now. How can I help my child find a way to get through this in a better way? And so it's just taking that reactiveness out of our parenting and really being thoughtful about it, like
Yeah.
thinking
I
through
mean,
it.
and it's funny because when you gave the example of in the shelter, the staff there provided you a natural pause and think, right? Like anytime you want to be on autopilot and spank, pause and call me and I'll help you think through this so that you can act more thoughtfully.
Right. Right. And yeah, that's what, yeah, it was great. So I think the challenges are knowing that you do have the time to do this, and that you do have the energy and the ability to do this, because parents think, like, my life, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so busy, I can't, how can I spend extra time with my kids? Or and for me, it's like, how can you not? And one of the ways that this shows up is morning routines. So some parents are so busy in the morning and yelling at their kids to get ready, we're going to be late, we're going to be late, and every day they're late, and every day it's conflict and it's chaos. And my coaching when they're doing that is, take an extra 5 or 10 minutes in the morning and stop everything and just sit down and play with your kids. Like, that solves the whole morning chaos, is to just go into that eternal time, which is where children live. Like, in their moment, they're just being. And if we can play with them more and not be on this high stress level that we're always on, they'll cooperate a heck of a lot more than they do when we're pressing, and we're stressed. And we set the tone. Our energy sets the tone. So I like to navigate those busy mornings with a lot of grace, a lot of deep breaths, a lot of calm presence, and that will bring the kids down as well. So role modeling, I think, is a big part of that. So there's a lot of struggles parents face, and connecting is a big one, and just taking the time to really do this. It's only 20 years. It's only part of your life. It's not your whole life.
I love that. So, I mean, part of what I'm hearing when you say that is go slow to go fast. Like,
Yes.
while it takes time to get down in 5 minutes and play and connect with them in the morning, taking that time, they're actually going to be then more likely to say, okay, mom, I'll put my shoes on and yes, let's go. Instead of like, I don't have time to, because what I'm imagining, and I'm out of that parenting phase with little ones, but I'm imagining there's a lot of people, at least I would be thinking if I'm listening, like, I don't have an extra 5 or 10 minutes to play with them. And that actually is, it's sort of counterintuitive to think that way.
Right. For sure. And that's, yes. And so you take that with any of the stressful times in your day. Maybe it's when you get home from work, maybe it's bedtime routine, and you ask yourself, how can I bring more presence and more calm and more peace and more fun? I mean, fun, play, those are the modalities of children's learning. All this, yell, do this, do that. That's not their realm. They get that imposed on them by us, but that's not where they really thrive in learning. They thrive with fun and game and play. So bringing that into it in your stressful moments, and just think of what it'll do for you.
I know. I'm laughing, Debbie, because last night, so my daughters right now are 14 and 15. And last night I'm like, okay, girls, we got to talk about, and it doesn't matter, but I was like in this mode of we're planning, we're organizing, we're talking. And, can you put your phones down and just connect for a minute? And I'm bringing this urgency, this energy. And my older daughter starts, she's like, Mom, okay, but first I got to show you this new TikTok. And she's like doing this. And I'm like, Josie, right? And instead of just taking 30 seconds to be like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. And, I was like, Josie, can you just focus? Can you listen? I could feel myself doing it. And then she all of a sudden goes from this playful, she's like, Mom, and now she's matching my energy. And it wasn't good.
Yeah. So those moments, I mean, that's where you get your information for next time. Now, like that's, next time you want to go in with the list making and all of that stuff, it's like, bring a little fun to it first, or follow their lead in fun or play. That's the most effective way. And so, don't beat yourself up. Just know you have another opportunity, another time. That's the nice thing about kids. They give us plenty of opportunities.
Oh, is that a great positive perspective, a positive spin? That's all. I will, you know what? You're right, Debbie. I will have a lot more chances to practice. and I love that you're just saying that, give myself grace, because yes. I really was not handling myself the way I wanted, and that's with thoughtfully fit strength. You consciously choose how you want to show up. In that moment, I was just on autopilot.
Yeah. And I think that's the struggle of parents today, is that sense of, I can't do anything else. This is so needed and important, or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And then also, so I want to kind of build on this. So, because we were talking beforehand about how the overlap of positive parenting with thoughtfully fit, we've got the practice of balance, right? And how do you balance what someone else wants and needs with what you want and need, to try to find that win-win? Last night, I wasn't really at all interested in Josie's wants and needs. It was like a win-lose. Like, right now, I want to accomplish this task. And that's where I'm recognizing I didn't do this well. So what tips do you have for how you can actually use positive parenting to bring a better sense of balance in the home?
Yeah, I mean, and I love the idea that you have in the book of win-win, and bringing that up, because I do teach that in the class. It's how do you create win-win, a win-win scenario? How do you do win-win negotiation, especially when we're dealing with power struggles with our kids? That's, I think, one of the most common times that this is super important. So let's say your child is supposed to take out the trash and they aren't doing it, or they haven't done it, and you've gotten in this big power struggle, and maybe they're on a TikTok or whatever they're doing, right? And instead of blowing up, you could say, I could see that's a win for you to stay on your phone and do all that and forget about the trash. And I want you to win, and I want to win too. And what I need to know is when or how are you going to make this happen? Because taking out the trash is your job, and you were supposed to have it done by 8. It's 8:20. Like, what are you going to do to make this happen? And, that's what I need in order to feel like I win. So, what can you do so that this is a win-win? You can have what you want. I can have what I want. And then you have a chat with your child. And I can imagine a conversation with your daughter of, I realized last night I was on this and I didn't even get to see the TikTok. Can you show it to me again?
Yes.
I missed it. I'm sorry.
Beautiful. And the other thing I'm thinking as you're talking, I mean, this has never even dawned on me until right now, is I could be like, can you make a TikTok garbage, like do something creative as you're taking the garbage out? She's super creative, and sort of bring in some playfulness into the tasks, instead of the power struggle is real.
Right. And so this is the idea you want to bring to conflict with your children is, I can see that's a win for you, and I want you to win. And when you say that to a child who's on a position, your daughter wasn't really on a position. She was just in her little environment. But if you're in a power struggle and your child is wanting or not wanting to do something, to acknowledge their position of saying, I can see it's a win for you to just keep doing what you're doing and not be responsible, and I want you to win. but I want to win too. And the orderly running of this house, whatever it is that's not happening from that child needs to be handled. And so that's what I need to win. And so what happens is we often come at it from the backwards way of, I need this to happen. The trash needs to come out. And we're not acknowledging their desires or their wants or their needs. And so they're not willing to help or participate. They're just going to dig their heels in, or they'll acquiesce if they're very sensitive, but then that's where the spirit getting broken comes in. I'm bullied into this. You're making me do this. They're not learning to do it because it's the right thing to do. And so the consciousness isn't there. And so when you acknowledge them, I can see that's a win for you, and I want you to win, and I want to win too. What they do immediately in their own mind, when you say, I want you to win, they're like, oh, she wants me to win. This is cool. And they're immediately in this relaxed place of when they hear that next message of the parent wanting to win and the parent wants some stuff done. It's like, oh, I can do that. Like they were just given something. And once a child is given something, they can then turn out and give it out back. And this is how we teach so many things, values and everything. Like if you want respect from your kids, you have to give them respect. You have to give them the qualities that you want them to have. They aren't born just knowing all of this stuff. And so until they've received something, they have no way to give it back out. And so you have to give them the qualities that you want to see in their world. So this is how you can transmit values to them, is by giving them those very qualities that you want them to learn to give to others.
I love that phrase, and I want you to win. Yeah. Oh my God, that right there, right? Like I can see why this is a win for you, and I want you to win. And here's what's a win is for me.
Yeah.
So how do we want to move forward? And so instead of you're going to do this now, young lady, and power struggle, it becomes more of a like, we're in this together. Let's figure this out.
Right. Yeah. And it's just so much more empowering, and they're so much more willing. And this doesn't mean it's going to solve every power struggle, but at least it's a much better starting point. So we're not starting from the point of adversary. We're starting from the point of being on the same team.
Okay, I'm putting you on speed dial, and if it doesn't solve all my problems, I'm texting you at midnight. So here's where I want to explore, like the difference between positive parenting and permissive parenting.
Yeah, and this is why positive parenting gets a bad rap. As soon as somebody hears positive parenting, they're like, oh, that means just let them get away with everything. And it's like, no, it doesn't. In fact, I find positive parenting to be way more work. And I call it being relentless with love. Like I just am relentless with love.
I have to write that down.
All of the ways that I teach to interact with kids, it's very present. And so I'm very present, but in a loving, kind, firm manner. So I'm not yelling, I'm not screaming. So that's the more authoritarian parenting, or that kind of dominance parenting is all that really strict stuff. So I'm not doing that. Permissive parenting is letting them get away with everything. So not having boundaries, letting them walk all over you, not respecting yourself. And I find parents respecting their own needs. And again, I'm sorry, I keep referring to your book, which I know you don't care about, but like the way that you took care of yourself in those first months was so amazing. Like that. And that was like the ultimate role modeling for your girls, that I need to take care of my needs in order to be able to take care of anything else. And so, I mean, I think that was a huge gift, even though in the moment, of course, nobody wanted it that way. And so that's to me is the essence of why this is not permissive parenting. Permissive parenting just doesn't have the boundaries, the consistency, the follow through, and in turn, children are not safe emotionally, especially.
Yes.
So these are the kids who are act entitled. They're walking all over everybody else, but they're inside, they're not feeling loved. They don't feel loved, because for children, being kept safe is having boundaries, having limits, being able to push the limits and have the limits set in a loving and firm way. Like that's safety and that's love for children. And so if they're able to push over all of our limits and boundaries, they have no respect for us, and they have no respect for themselves, and they have no respect for other people. And that's permissive parenting.
Powerful. And I remember when this happened to me in the Josie story when she was little, and I had hired a parenting coach, John and I, and she said sometimes the kids are craving you setting boundaries because they can't do it for themselves. And so when we would say, you know what, we're going to just do a timeout, that's not a punishment. They're actually like, oh, thank God, it's almost like you're protecting me from myself because I don't have the prefrontal, cortex developed enough to make that decision. So I need you to do that for me.
Right. Yep. And I saw you did Parenting with Love and Logic, which are a couple of my favorite authors. The Klein and Faye, I've actually trained with them. They're amazing. So yeah.
Oh, you have?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
they're super fun. In fact, one of them taught me the best thing I ever learned, which is pick only the battles you know you can win. I love that. I'll never forget that. Yeah, I was at a training.
That's like one step further from choose your battles, right?
Right.
Actually, that's like even more telling, choose your battles that you can win.
Right. Yeah. And so
okay. So what about if we have people who are watching or listening who are beyond that little kid stage as well, and maybe they're even beyond the teenage stage where I am, and their kids are out of the home. Does positive parenting work with adult children?
Yeah, it works with everybody because this is solid communication skills and tools that most of us never learned. And so much of my work I've done, 18 years, I had a contract with the county that I lived in, teaching positive parenting for all county employees. So all 7,000 county employees had access to my classes year round. I had an ongoing thing. And in those classes, I would say at least half, probably even more, of those parents taking those classes used it not only with their kids, but in their relationships at work. So with their bosses, with their subordinates, with their coworkers, with anybody behaving like a child. Which is what we encounter so often with adults. Okay. So that's where this really comes into play. And so, yes, so many of us don't have just basic good communication skills and tools practically. And so we'll use those with all of our relationships. And I did have a middle school teacher once who took my class who had 2 adult children. They were 22 and 26, and they were still living at home. And she used almost everything in the class with those kids, especially like the teamwork and the family team building that we do. I mean, those kind of things, setting boundaries, creating consistency and all that sort of thing. And so as in all things, you can always learn. If you're open to learning, you'll always learn. And to me, this curriculum, I'm trained in 7 or 10 different parenting curriculums because I've taken a lot of trainings over time, like, Love and Logic and Positive Discipline. And the reason that I do the one that I do is because it's so practical. It's all experiential exercises. So I set up exercises of, I'm the kid and you're the parent, or I'm the parent and you're the kid, and let's do this the wrong way. And then let's do this, a more effective way. And to me, that's how to really learn and to how to really understand to feel what it feels like. And it's amazing because in a class, we immediately go to those feelings we felt as a child of being overpowered or not listened to or abandoned or whatever it is. It doesn't take much for us to absolutely be there and then be able to see, and that we can translate to our own children. And I think our experiences are the key and the gift that we have to give our children. And so to be introspective and to really look at all of that is important.
And it's interesting because if I really am relating to what you're saying, that we all go back to what our own experience was. And if that's what it was, that's all we know. And so to change the pattern, and our parents, most of them were doing the best that they could. But when you know better, you do better. And so I'm hearing you say part of what is powerful is taking it from the theoretical, reading about the strategies, and actually practicing and in the bones training yourself through some tough situations so that you're almost building that memory, that muscle memory.
Yeah. And there's actually exercises I do of recreating those, that call it like well, people don't know record players anymore, but you put that needle down and yes. There's that groove, and you can actually change the grooves and have a new song play when you have the right tools to do that. And I've had some, I can't market this way because people would never take my class if I said, you need to change you. Like, there's nothing wrong with the kids. The kids are all fabulous and great. They're all born perfect. But what parents find out after the first class that I teach, where we're doing a lot of exercises and understanding our children and what they're experiencing, and they come back the next week and they're like, oh, this isn't about my kids, this is about me, isn't it? Yeah, I guess it is.
Yes, I love that. It's like it's exactly 100% accurate, and nobody would sign up if
Right.
the premise is, wait, I have to change? No, I'm coming to you to change.
To fix my kids.
My kids. Yes, right. Oh my gosh, I love this. And so, to me, all of what you're saying, it really, if we overly simplify it, which I know it's not simple, but it does go back to the core. And being able in that moment when the tension's high or you're frustrated or there's a power struggle, to pause and to think and ask yourself some questions. How can I make this a win-win? And I wrote down, how can I be relentless with love? How can I get my kid to win? Not right. Like, it's not just like, how can I win? How can I make this a win for them? And then be able to act thoughtfully with positive parenting techniques.
Right.
Oh, beautiful. So here's where I'd like to go is what I'm going to put up your website here.
Okay.
Where can people find more? Because I am certain there's going to be people saying, wow, I need more of Debbie and more positive parenting.
Yeah. So thepositiveparenting.com, there's several links, and one goes to the website and to the classes. So I have an online recorded class. So it's just self-directed. You can just do it in your own time. Listen or watch. Now I have it on Zoom from the pandemic, but it's also audio. I also have a podcast, and it's just 5 minutes a day. It's the Positive Parenting Pep Talks podcast. There's links there on the website to get to them, on Spotify and Apple and all that stuff. So every day, every morning, you can listen to just a 5-minute pep talk on positive parenting and just get your day started off with, ideas for being more positive. And yeah, that's what I'll suggest.
That was great branding. Right. When I think about, sports teams, and in order for them to perform, they get a pep talk. And so here, in order for it to help the parents perform and to be able to parent in a way that does not do damage and break somebody's spirit, you're giving them a morning pep talk. Pep talk.
Yep. That's the way to find me.
Well,
and I'm on Instagram too. You can come on Instagram.
Oh, okay, perfect. So lots of places, and we'll put those links in the comments here. And I just want to thank you, Debbie. I feel like we could make this 3 hours. And so I appreciate you just giving us so many bottom line, powerful nuggets and, ways to be able to look at, how can I show up differently if I am in a place where I'm wanting to have a better relationship with my kids and family?
Yeah.
Or coworkers. Right? Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today, Debbie. And thank you, everybody, for being here for Thoughtfully Fit Thursday. Check out Debbie. And the greatest compliment you can give is to give this a thumbs up. We will see you next week.